Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this third session of the Hunting Basics webinar series brought to you by MSU Extension. My name is Katie Okert, and I am a chronic wasting disease educator with Michigan State University Extension. And I'm so happy to have Mike with us today, who will be talking about access to hunting land. And just as a reminder, MSU is open to all our programs. We welcome everybody to come and be active learners. So we hope that you enjoy this. And to kick off the session today, we're going to start with a quick poll question, or two quick poll questions. So if you could take a moment, the first question is, have you ever participated in an MSU Extension program before this series? And then, where do you plan to hunt this fall? We'll just take a couple seconds for you to fill those questions out quick. All right, awesome. Thank you so much for responding. And we've got some newcomers to extension programs, so I'd like to welcome you. And without further ado, I would like to introduce Mike Parker. Mike serves as the DNR Wildlife Division Conservation Partners Program Specialist, where he coordinates all of the division's private land programs, which includes the Hunting Access Program. Mike has 25 years of experience assisting private landowners in Michigan to enhance their lands for wildlife. Prior to joining the Wildlife Division in 2011, Mike spent 14 years as a regional wildlife biologist for Pheasants Forever. Mike is a graduate of Michigan State University, an avid hunter and fly fisherman, and is passionate about recruiting new hunters and lives in Okemos with his wife and 3 dogs. So welcome, Mike. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you can share yours. And then we'll get started.
Okay.
And just as a note, if you have questions as the presentation continues, go ahead and type those into the Q&A chat pod, and at the conclusion of the presentation, we'll field those questions.
Are you seeing my screen, Katie?
Yep, you're good.
Good. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and get rolling. Good afternoon, everybody. Again, I'm Mike Parker with the DNR Wildlife Division, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today. And, the DNR recognizes that a lack of access to hunting lands is one of the biggest hurdles we have in recruiting new hunters or maintaining existing hunters. So we do have a pretty significant effort to make land accessible for hunters sort of all across the state. And I would say that maybe like some of you on the call, I didn't grow up on a farming family or have land in the family to hunt. I'm a suburban kid that started hunting in high school. So I had to learn these things on my own. Of course, now I do it as part of my job, but I'm happy to share with you, some of the lessons I've learned over the, kind of a lifetime of hunting in Michigan and across the country for that matter. No, I'm not. There we go. Okay, so just a quick look at sort of what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about opportunities to hunt on private land in Michigan, opportunities on public lands in Michigan, and then some of the tools that we have in the DNR and even a couple non-DNR tools we have to help folks identify and find hunting opportunities in Michigan. So the first program I want to talk about is HAP, or the Hunting Access Program. And, we know that in today's busy times, folks are busy. We've got to have opportunities for folks to hunt close to home, or they're just not going to do it. There's too many other things in life with running kids to soccer practice and a million other obligations with work and stuff. So we need to have opportunities close to home, but that's not really a new thing. HAP actually started in 1978. 1938 in Michigan. It's one of the oldest continuous access programs in the country. And it started for the same reasons back then, which is we needed places for people to hunt close to home. Originally, it was focused entirely in southern Michigan. But over the past decade since I've been with the DNR, we've really sort of expanded it to the northern lower to focus on deer hunting and parts of the Upper Peninsula, which I'll talk about for sharp-tailed grouse hunting. So we've definitely expanded the program. Our current priorities, again, are areas with limited public land, which is much of southern Michigan, unique opportunities like the sharp-tailed grouse in the UP, and then disease. Bovine tuberculosis is a really significant issue in the deer herd up in northeast Michigan. So we have an awful lot of HAP properties up there. And the great part about the program is there's no special license or any special fee. If you have a valid hunting license, you are able to use these HAP properties. So just a few details on HAP. First of all, hunting is the only activity. These are private lands. We lease the hunting rights to these lands, but nothing else. So they're not open to riding your horses or mountain bikes or picking mushrooms or fishing or trapping, anything. It is strictly hunting. These properties do require hunters to sign in every day. The properties are available on a first come, first served basis. Most of our properties are what we call self-serve. So if you look at the photo there, you see that headquarters sign and there's a box underneath it. All of our properties look very similar to this. Inside that box, there's a folder if it's a self-serve box. And in there, you have to sign yourself in. So the date, your name, your address, the time that you start to hunt, and then when you leave, the time that you leave the property. And the reason we need you to sign in and out is we do restrict the number of hunters that can be on a property at any one time. We want to ensure that folks are safe, but also have, you know, great experience and aren't kind of overrun with hunters. So it's really important. If you don't sign in, it's technically trespassing. So make sure you sign in. We offer landowners a variety of options for their properties. So you need to make sure that you are aware of what you can legally hunt on that property. The majority of our properties are open to all hunting, but we also have some properties that are only open to deer hunting, turkey hunting, small game. We've had elk, we've had a couple other species. So make sure that you're aware of what you can hunt. And I'll show you in a second how you know how to do that. And as I said before, there's no special license required. So if you're interested in finding out more about the program, you're going to want to go to our website. You can go to michigan.gov/HAP or just Google search Michigan Hunting Access Program. Our webpage looks just like this here, and have you click on the current list of properties, and that will bring up something that looks just like this. And this is a current list. We update this list anytime we add a new property or we lose a property. We do have properties throughout the season that occasionally we'll lose. The land may sell, the landowner may pass away. A hunter may behave poorly and the landowner says, you know, that's enough, I'm out. So make sure you check this list occasionally, because we may have something new or something might be removed. But when you look, the list is by county. We have all the landowners' names, all of the relevant information for each property of where the property is located, the types of hunting you're allowed to do. And you can see on the example here, most of them are all hunting, but the bottom one is deer only. They tell you the service type. Again, most of our properties are self-service. We do have a handful that are mandatory check. On a mandatory check, you actually have to knock on the landowner's door to get permission from the landowner. Most of the ones that we still have that do that, the landowner usually wants to meet with the hunter one time so that they can sort of tell you the rules and make sure you know each other. And then they'll say, next time you come, the registration book's in the box or in the barn or something like that. And then again, all the other information about the number of hunters that allow, how large the property is, and the habitat types. And then there may be special notes. We have some properties that maybe the landowner has a family member that hunts that property on opening day of deer season or something. So if there's some restrictions like that, that will all be listed in that special notes section. And then if you want more information, you can click on the landowner name. That will bring up a map of the property, which I'll show you in a second. And we also have up at the top a county map that shows all of the public hunting land that's available. So here's an example of what the HAP property maps look like. And again, you've got an aerial photo of the property. All of those details that were on the HAP webpage show up there relative to the size of the property, where it's located. All of those details are included on the maps. These maps are also available when you sign in at a property. There should be a laminated map there. And this is that county map I showed. Again, if you click, there's a box on the HAP webpage, and this will show you all of the property that's available. So the HAP properties are the stars. The different colors of green will be different state land. If there's federal land, if there's commercial forest land, which I'll talk about here in a second, everything is on there. So I encourage folks to bring one of these maps with you. There happens to be a lot of HAP properties in this county. Some counties you don't have as many. So if you got there and say a property was full, if you have this map, there might be some public land close by that you could go hunt. And I've done that myself. A couple of years ago, I went pheasant hunting on opening day, and the HAP property I wanted to go to was already full. So I went to some nearby state land, went duck hunting for a couple hours, went back to the HAP property. A few hours later, there was a spot open. So then I went pheasant hunting. So just a great opportunity to kind of use one of those maps. This is a map of where the current distribution of HAP properties across the state. You can see they're pretty well scattered around, mostly in southern Michigan, and then up in that northeast part of the state. And that's where our focus on the bovine TB is. On the right side, that photo there, that's the eastern end of the Upper Peninsula. We have sharp-tailed grouse there. It's the only huntable population of sharp-tailed grouse east of the Mississippi River. So it's a really unique opportunity, and the majority of those birds occur on private land. So if it wasn't for HAP, pretty tough for most folks to have an opportunity to pursue sharp-tailed grouse. We have about 5,000 acres available there. Those properties are restricted to either sharp-tail only, or some also allow small game. So you might be able to hunt a ruffed grouse while you're there as well, or waterfowl. Some of the properties have pretty good waterfowl hunting. And those properties are all closed on November 10th. So they're just open basically October and November. And then if you want more details on the HAP program, the annual hunting digest has 2 pages in it that look just like this here on the screen. It has all of the details about how you use a property, how you locate a property, the rules of HAP, and everything's available right there in the annual hunting digest. So the next program I want to talk about is the commercial forest program. This is another DNR program run by our forestry division, another private lands program where the DNR pays a tax incentive for landowners to manage their land long-term for timber production. But in exchange for that tax incentive, they have to open the land to public hunting, fishing, and trapping. So you can do some things that you can't do on HAP program. The map shows counties where those lands are. The majority of that 2 million acres is in the northern Michigan and UP. But there are some properties in southern Michigan as well. And to get information on the commercial forest program, again, go to the DNR website there. This is what that page looks like, and all of the details for the program coordinator are there, where the properties are, everything that you need to know about the program is available on that page. And just to kind of show you on the left, if you click on the information tab, it gives a list of the properties by county. And again, this is sort of what it looks like. The list there is it's more of a legal description by the county, township, and section. If you're not really familiar with how to understand what that all means, The map on the right is what's available on a program we call MI Hunt, and I'm going to talk about MI Hunt in a minute. It's probably a much easier way to locate these commercial forest lands. So I'll get to that in a minute, but MI Hunt is a really wonderful tool that I use myself all the time to find places to hunt. And then the last thing I'll talk about with private lands is just the old-fashioned way of how do you get permission, right? In southern Michigan, 97% of the landscape is privately owned, and northern lower, it's about 70%, and in the UP, it's 50%. So knocking on doors continues to be a great way to find places to hunt. I've successfully hunted in 9 states. I hunt all over the place. I'm an avid bird hunter. And I do a lot of knocking on doors, and I do get a lot of no's, but I also get a lot of yeses. So I encourage you to do it. You know, one of the great things is to offer like a small little gift. One of my former supervisors, I thought, just had an ingenious idea. He kept bees on his property. So he would take jars of honey and he put a picture of himself and his information on there. And that was just a thank you gift. And that meant a lot to landowners. And I thought it was really smart because it had his picture and his contact information. So when he'd go back next year, he'd say, hey, I'm the honey guy. And people love that. And it really worked well for him. When I hunt out of state, I bring apples. You know, I hunt North Dakota a lot. They don't have Michigan apples. We've got lots of them. So I bring just small things like apples. And it works really, really well. Sort of a newer way to go about it is writing letters to landowners, identify a potential area and send a letter. For many, it's an easier way to go about it. It's a little less intrusive. You can write a letter with background about yourself, your family, your hunting ethics. You put a picture of your family in there, and that works really, really well these days. If you're looking for what is a landowner's name or who owns this piece of land, you can buy a plat book from your local conservation district, and it has landowner names. There's some hunting apps to use the new technology. I'm going to talk about those towards the end of the presentation, and they're amazing to find landowner names and addresses. I use them a lot myself, and maybe even consider providing references that you're a good ethical hunter. Works really well. Many landowners are concerned about liability. There's lots of examples you can find online of like a liability waiver. The state does provide protection as well, and most landowners are not familiar with that, but you can sort of create your own agreement. And again, I encourage you to go online and search for examples of that. Leasing land privately has become very popular. I personally don't do that, but many, many people do. So that's a great opportunity to have a piece for yourself, or maybe a couple friends get together and lease property. It's becoming real popular. And the key that I would say is that relationships matter. When somebody says yes to you, don't forget that person. Again, give them a little gift, send them a thank you card, send them a Christmas card. Those relationships matter. I have relationships with landowners in several different states, and I hunt these same properties every year. And for me, it's that simple of sending a thank you card and thanking them for sharing their land. And again, don't get frustrated. The effort will pay off if you make it. Okay, let's switch to public land. And we are blessed in Michigan. We have over 8 million acres of state and federal land here in Michigan. If you add in that commercial forest land, the 2 million, there's actually over 10 million acres of huntable land in Michigan. That's far more than any state east of the Mississippi River. So we are in a wonderful place to have public hunting opportunities. And so I just wanted to mention that the amount of public land really varies depending on where you're at. This is sort of a look at the public land in portions of northern Michigan there. You can see the greens and the browns, that's state and federal land. About 30% of the landscape in northern Michigan is public, about 50% in the UP. In southern Michigan, it's about 3%. So there's much less land in southern Michigan, about 400,000 acres of state game areas in southern Michigan. The great thing about those state game areas is that they're managed specifically for wildlife and for hunting. versus some of the other land in the north, the state forest land, they're co-managed for wildlife, for timber production, for recreation. So there's more trails for, say, ATV riding or mountain bike riding or horses and things like that. So less land in the south, but much more focused on wildlife and hunting than some of the land in the north. So how do you find this land? Again, 10 million acres, how do you find it? DNR website, tons of information there. MIHunt, which I talked about a minute ago. And then sort of the new way is these hunting apps. And these are not owned by DNR, and I'm not suggesting one over another, but two of the real popular ones are called onX Hunt or HuntWise. And I'll talk a little bit about how I personally use those. So I would say if you remember one thing from this presentation today, remember this slide and remember the name MIHunt. This is the DNR's interactive tool that has everything related to hunting in Michigan. And so when you sign into MIHunt, you'll start with a map that looks like this here, and you can see all those stars. Those are the HAP properties. You can see the different colors of the green and the sort of orange, those are state and federal land. But you can zoom in on that to find a particular area. You can type an address in up at the top left where it says search address to find a particular piece of property. And then you can go over here on the left. There's a whole bunch of different layers that you can show up. So you can have township and range, which is sort of the legal description I talked about, trails, the cover types, what is the land, what type of woods is it, or wetlands or whatever. You can turn those layers on and off. You can show state land, you can show federal land, you can show HAP, you can show anything that you want. And the great thing is the map can get kind of busy, so you can turn certain things off to kind of declutter the map. So the example I have on the screen is you can see all the HAP properties on the left, and then that colorful property over on the right, that's all state land over there. So this is an area that I actually hunted this on Saturday, and I just sort of talk about how I use MIHunt. So one of the things I would encourage you as new hunters to think about is what are the habitat requirements that a particular species needs. So in this example, I was hunting ruffed grouse and woodcock. And so this is a map in the area that I looked at, and you can see on the left the different types of covers. So Aspen being one of the primary places to hunt grouse. And those numbers in there are different age classes. And so a lot of times I will be looking for that yellow 3, or we call it A3. It's Aspen 3, that's a young aspen. And so when you understand habitat requirements early in the season, the grouse are sort of in broods. They're in the habitat that they were raised in as chicks. So they're in that younger habitat. Later in the fall, they'll be switching over to winter cover. So it's a little bit more mature aspen, usually adjacent to wetlands and conifers. So again, if you understand the habitat, you can really use these maps to sit at home and scout for properties and save yourself a whole bunch of driving around. So a little closer look, if there's a particular area that you're interested in, you can click on that little box. There's an identify button. You can see the arrow pointing to that, and that will bring up all the information about that particular stand. So in this example, that's a high density sapling stand of aspen. It was last harvested in 2006, so it's 15 years old. Pretty prime stuff for finding grouse this time of year. So again, this is an area that I was scouting for this past weekend. I just sort of go back to the private land just for a minute. I just wanted to highlight that all of the HAP properties are also available on MIHunt. So again, this is that area I showed here a minute ago. The different stars represent the different types of hunting that we have, be it all hunting or turkey or deer only or youth and apprentice. You can tell by the color. You can find the property maps that I showed earlier as well. If you're not on the HAP website, you can just click on that box that says HAP lands, then click on that star where the HAP property is. and it will bring up this screen here. And again, all of the details for property location, the size, the number of hunters, it's all there. And then if you click on the bottom, it says detailed map, and the property map will show up. So again, you can use MI Hunt for both the public and the private lands in Michigan. So that's a quick look at MI Hunt. And the next thing I wanted to talk about is just some of the specific things we've done at the DNR for particular species. So let's say you're a new hunter and you're really interested in hunting grouse, but you didn't really know how to go about it. So we created a new program called the Grouse Enhancement Management System, or GEMS we call them. And these are areas, they're all highlighted on our website, that give all of the details about that property. We have many of them have relationships with local businesses, so they might give you a discount at a restaurant or a hotel or something like that if you use that property. But we have these maps available. They're on our website. If you don't want to use the MI Hunt, when you show up at one of these properties, there'll be a big kiosk that has this map, and it will show all the trails and parking areas and different habitat types. Everything is there. And again, the goal is to make it a simple, easy place that you can learn how to hunt grouse. And we can't guarantee you that you're going to find a bird, but I'll guarantee you that these places have them if you learn to hunt it correctly. So that's our GEMS program. Just to kind of show you, there's 19 properties scattered around the northern lower and the UP. So that's sort of a distribution. Again, you can find all these on our website. Similar program for waterfowl. So again, say you want to learn how to hunt waterfowl, ducks and geese. We have several different properties managed specifically for waterfowl hunting. On the left is a map of some waterfowl areas we have in southern Michigan. Those properties have a daily draw. So every day it's sort of like a lottery where you go in, you put your name in, and then they pull numbers out of a hat, so to speak, and then you get to select where you hunt in that property based on the draw that you get. If you don't want to do that, you want to just know for sure where I'm going to hunt, we have several areas in red on the map on the right that are more in northern Michigan. Again, these areas are specifically managed for waterfowl. Wonderful opportunities if you want to hunt a duck on public land in Michigan. Those properties are really, really terrific. I hunt several of them myself. And if you want to learn more, the timing for today's presentation was good. A press release just came out from the DNR this morning about open houses. So all of those I guess not all of them, but most of those properties have an open house coming up this fall. It's called the Wetland Wonders Tour. And if you go to our website and just search Wetland Wonders, or if you get our press releases, you'll see all the information there of the date and the location of those. So again, the open house is a great opportunity if you've never been to one of these properties to kind of take a tour of the facilities and talk to our staff and sort of learn how do the draws work and how does the whole program work. So great opportunity to learn more. What about if you want to learn how to pheasant hunt? For the past 10 years, the DNR and our partners, we've had what we call the Pheasant Restoration Initiative, where we're working together with our partners to increase pheasant habitat and pheasant hunting opportunities. Lots of information available on the website I highlighted there, michigan.gov/pheasant. And the list on the right, those are properties we've been working on over the last 10 years to really improve the pheasant hunting, the pheasant habitat on those areas. So lots of great opportunities to hunt pheasants in Michigan on those lands. Something new 2 years ago was the Michigan Pheasant Hunting Initiative. So this is a hunting initiative rather than the restoration initiative. And this was passed by the state legislature 2 years ago. And essentially this program created a new pheasant hunting license in Michigan. The funds from that license are used to stock or to release pheasants on some of our public land to increase pheasant hunting opportunities. So on the screen, I have the list of properties where those birds will be released. They're sort of released throughout the whole hunting season. So if you've never pheasant hunted, or maybe even if you have, but you want a place that you pretty much know there's going to be birds there, you might want to check out one of those properties. Again, it is required that you buy that pheasant hunting license if you're going to hunt those properties, or any of the state land or HAP properties as well. You got to have that new license. And then there's 2 Learn to Hunt events coming up in December at the Rose Lake State Game Area. That's in the Lansing area and up in Bath, just east of Lansing. I just checked this morning. The details are still not finalized, but they'll be available on our website hopefully pretty soon. So if you're interested, great opportunities. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about is just some of the new technology. These are the hunting apps that I mentioned, the onX Hunt and HuntWise. I started using these a couple years ago, and boy, they are really special. But they'll show you property boundaries of public and private land. HAP properties will show up on them. The commercial forest lands will show up on them. If you want to find out a landowner name, you can search that, like that front map there. If you pay a little bit more, they will give you the landowner name and address. And I personally pay for that to help find places. I think it's worth the extra money. It's probably not worth it to everybody, but it is for me. The aerial imagery is really high class. You can save your favorite spots. You can track your routes, which is great. Say when you're hunting grouse and you're up in the big woods and you don't want to get lost. It's a really invaluable tool. Instead of carrying a complicated GPS, I do it all on my phone these days. Sunset and sunrise times, which are relative to legal hunting times, are on there. They have weather forecasts, all sorts of great information on these hunting apps. And most of them start at $30 a year to upgrade. I think it's like $60 to be able to get that landowner information. If you want the whole country rather than Michigan, then it goes up from there. It's closer to $100 for there. So lots of options there. And I'm just going to sort of close with, how do I personally use all of these tools, kind of bringing it back together. So this is a place that I hunted on Saturday. I used that MI Hunt tool to sort of identify some potential new land. And this is that property that I showed earlier. It was a young aspen stand that blew around there. I usually look for grouse hunting close to wetlands, particularly in this early season. It was that 15-year-old property. So I knew that it was probably a great spot. When I got out to the property on the left, I used the HuntWise app, and you can see those little icons on there. The one on the left is, that's a waypoint. That's a trail that I go down. It's kind of hard to see. So I put an icon there to show myself where to turn when I got there. I marked some parking places. Those are areas that I parked when I went out hunting. The little bird symbols, if you can see that, those are places that I flushed birds, so that I know, when I want to go back, say next year, now I've got it marked on a map that this is a place I parked. This is where I flush birds. So again, I've really embraced the technology to find places to hunt, and it's a pretty easy tool and something that you can learn to use. So I'll just kind of wrap it all up with, we are again blessed in Michigan to have 10 million acres of public and private hunting opportunities in the state. If you take a little bit of time to kind of learn the tools and the habitat needs of wildlife, as I mentioned, do a little bit of scouting, you can have some really great opportunities and kind of find your next secret spot. Even if it's on public land, I consider them my own little secret spots. And I guess I'll just wrap up with saying, hunting is a journey. Enjoy the ride as you're learning how to find these lands. And I will end with this. This is, again, my contact information. If you've got follow-up questions, you want to shoot me an email, or you want to give me a call to talk about stuff, I'm happy to talk to anybody anytime and share my experiences and provide any information. And with that, I'll take questions.
Thanks so much, Mike. At this time, we don't have any open questions in the question pod, but we'll give it a few minutes. And just as a reminder, the next webinar will be next Tuesday. The next and final webinar will be Tuesday, September 28th, so just next week. And we will be talking about deer hunting regulations, and we'll really be breaking those regulations down so that you can easily understand them. So please feel free to bring your questions and we'll get those answered as well. All right. Seeing no questions, thank you again, Mike, for your time and all of your knowledge and information. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you soon.